Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today we're going to be talking about the best books of 2020. Alright, these are going to go from like my least most favorite to most favorite, but all of them are amazing, so you just should read all of them anyway. But the first book on our list is The Bear and the Nightingale. So The Bear and the Nightingale, it's based on Russian folklore, and we follow Vasya, who can see spirits, and she lives in northern town in Russia, and her life is quite good until her stepmother comes, and she also can see the spirits of the woods, but she thinks they're demons. And it's kind of about the fight between all the new religion, tradition, and it's just such a wonderful, whimsical tale that I absolutely adored. I mean, the reading experience was super cool. I actually vlogged it because I did a whole video talking about Eastern European inspired fantasy, so I really love that all the books in that video. Uprooted as well, maybe that's like an honorable mention, but I felt Bear and the Nightingale was just such a wonderful story. I can't wait to read the sequel and the third book because they all seem amazing. And I don't know, it just something about it really made me reminiscent about my culture. It just feels like a warm blanket and it's really interesting, and I've heard that the world just expands and expands as you go, so I would highly recommend that one. It was wonderful. Next up we have City of Brass. So in City of Brass we follow a girl whose name I don't remember. She's like kind of a con artist. She can heal people, but she can take money for different things. And one day she's doing this fake ritual to like heal someone, and she by mistakes summons a Deva. Deva is a type of genie, and he takes her to Devabad, which is the city of genies, because she is not safe, because she's half Deva or half genie, whatever, herself. So it's about her journey to the city and then just getting adjusted and that kind of thing. I thought it was such a wonderful, complex story. Again, I read it for a vlog, so if you want to check out my full thoughts, you can check it out there. But I just thought it was such a complex story. It was so interesting because it's set in like Middle East, and the culture is definitely inspired by that as well. So I just thought it was a unique experience. Honestly, the motivations, the characters, the world, everything's just so complex, and that was the one word I kept shouting at everyone. But honestly, it's just very intricate, very well told story that I highly enjoyed, and I think it's absolutely an amazing book that not enough people read. Well, no, actually, that's a lie. It's very popular. Do you know how expensive the whole set is in like the original hardcovers? Yeah, maybe enough people read it, but still it's really good. I put my stamp of approval. It's just as good as everyone said. Next book is Patron Saints of Nothing. Patron Saints of Nothing, we follow a boy who's half Filipino, but he grew up in the United States. And one day he gets a message that his cousin was killed back in Philippines, and he goes to Philippines to find out the truth about what happened. It's such a wonderful story. I don't even know how to talk about it. I talk about it in another video as well. I'm repetitive at this point, but it was about reading books from POC authors, and authors obviously Filipino. But if you don't know enough about Philippines, you feel like you are not very well educated on the culture or the political state of the country, I would highly recommend this book. It talks so much about the current president, about the struggles of Philippine people, and you get to find it out with the main character, who's also, although he's half Filipino, he's been very distant from his culture because he's grew up in America and half American as well. So it's a wonderful story about heritage, about family, about where you belong, about what you're willing to fight for, and it's just so educational about Philippines, and it broke my heart, but it's also an amazing, hopeful story, so I would highly recommend it. Honestly, it's a contemporary, so I don't know if that's your thing, but contemporary is not my thing, and that book definitely was my thing. Next up we have Once and Future Witches, which is a book following three sisters who are witches, and it's all set in the backdrop of the suffragette movement. Suffragette movement was the movement to get women a right to vote. So it's all about that, but also each sister, they're all kind of separated, so all of them have different storylines, each just as interesting as the other one. They're all kind of an archetype of like a maiden, a crone, and a mother, but the way that's subverted, the way the conversation goes between like feminism and witchery, and what it means to truly be an ally, what kind of feminism we want. It talks about really amazing themes. I have a full dedicated review for it, so if you want to check it out, do. But I talk about every theme. I noticed everything, but I just hopefully when you watch that review you will understand fully, but I just thought it was an amazing, intricate story, beautifully written. I think Alex Iharo has a really, really beautiful writing. She's the author of the $1,000 of January, so that's a book I really loved last year, and I'm definitely gonna read her next book because she's brilliant. But yeah, just such an intricate and wonderful story about sisterhood and feminism and womanhood. It was just wonderful. I would highly recommend it. Next up is a book that was a total surprise, but it's just wonderful, and this is Girl, Woman, Other. So Girl, Woman, Other it's a short story collection, and we follow like, I don't know how many, but maybe like 15 or something Black women, and all of them have different stories, but all of them interweave with each other. So for example, we have our first story is about Anna, and then the next story is about her daughter, and then it will be someone from her daughter's life or Anna's friend or something. All of them eventually end up being connected, and I absolutely love that. I loved the writing in this book, and I loved the ability of the author to make us empathize with absolutely such a wide spectrum of experiences. I was shocked at how many different portrayals of a Black woman, of women in general there were, how many experiences from how many like different generations, from different places, and all of them felt authentic. There's a lot of queer characters in this as well, so if you want to read something truly just so interesting, so well written, well thought out, so I don't even know the words, I mean that's why I'm not a writer, but it was absolutely wonderful. I was so surprised at how much I loved it, because I don't like short story collections, I don't really like fiction novels that are in fantasy, but the ability of the author to make even the most unlikable characters feel real and for us to understand where they're coming from was just absolutely amazing. I honestly applaud the author. It was amazing. This won like some kind of awards as well, so it's not like I'm the first person saying that this is a good book, but you should listen, you should read it. It's wonderful. Next up we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So this is, you know, Jane Austen, and you probably know Pride and Prejudice, but I'm going to tell you. We follow the Bennet family, and in particular Elizabeth, who lives with her father, mother, and her 4 sisters. And there's a new bachelor coming to town, and her mother is like, he's perfect for Elizabeth's sister. But with the bachelor comes also mysterious Mr. Darcy, who's mean and gets off on the wrong foot with Elizabeth, and it's about their feud, but also their love. It's wonderful. I never read Jane Austen before this year, and it was a mistake. I'm gonna read all of her books. So far I only made it to Pride and Prejudice and Northanger Abbey, but I'm definitely gonna do more. I just loved it. I loved it so much. It was so well written. It was so witty. Even though it was like old English, it was really easy to read. I just had such a good time reading it. I don't remember last time I was so invested and just having so much fun. Just pure fun reading a book. It was wonderful. I watched the BBC drama like 3 times, and then I watched the movie like 2-3 times since then, so it's all this year as well, so I think that's kind of impressive. Yeah, but it was so good. I was so surprised at how much I loved it. I would highly recommend it if you haven't picked it up. Even though it's a classic, it's definitely one of the more accessible classics, because I've read a couple and this one was so much easier to read than the other ones, and it was just so funny. Okay, the next book is The Divineness by Libba Bray. This is set in the 1920s, and we follow our main character, who's kind of got in trouble back home, so she gets shipped to New York to be with her uncle, and it's a world filled with diviners. Diviners are people with special magical powers. So for example, the main character, she can touch an object and see the past basically of the owner of the object. I really loved it. I think it was such a well-written book. The audiobook as well is really high value of production. It just makes you feel like you're 1920s. The music, the everything, the atmosphere was wonderful. The plot was fast-paced, filled with like really engaging, interesting plot points, and the whole story was just really engaging. And on top of that, we have very diverse cast full of characters of different races, sexualities, and I just absolutely loved it. I think it was such a well-written book that is totally like everyone loves it, but I love it as well, so I would highly recommend it actually if everyone says it's good. I read the second book, it was good as well, really good, and the third one was and I still have to read the fourth one. Next up we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I know, I'm surprised too. I'm not that big fan of Leigh Bardugo in terms of like her other book series. This is Leigh Bardugo's first ever adult novel, and we follow Alex, who had like a near-death experience, and ever since then she can see ghosts, and for that reason she gets into Yale, And the reason why they want her in Yale, because she can see ghosts, is that there are many secret societies in Yale, and all of them have different affinity to different type of magic. And the house that Alex joins is the 9th house, and that's the house that like kind of oversees all the other houses and makes sure that everyone stays in line and stays like well behaved. Basically, Alex's mentor disappears, and then murders start happening. I don't even remember that much about it, but I remember loving it. I was so surprised how much I loved it, because it was just so well written, but also so interesting. The characters were just so compelling. You really understood where they came from. I think the world was super interesting. The commentary on the Yale culture, like Leigh Bardugo went to Yale herself. It was just all very, very interesting, and I'm super looking forward to the sequel. They're just gonna make us wait 55,000 years for it, but it's just, I think it's gonna be absolutely brilliant. I just cannot wait. The book was so good. I did not even think I'd like it. I just went to the signing because it was Leigh Bardugo, and I loved it. I cannot wait. I think that's an amazing series, and I think she's just such a good writer, actually. Like, she's improved definitely a lot, and this series is gonna be great. I can just feel it. The sequel, oh my god, it's gonna be so good. Next up, we have Middle Game, and this is a little bit of a weird one. If you like weird books, you will like this one. So we follow two twins, Roger and Dodger, who get separated at birth, and they have to kind of find their way back to each other, but actually they were created in a lab by a mad scientist, basically, and each of them has an affinity to either words or maths, and it's like as weird as it sounds, and it's kind of about them having this quantum entanglement where they can like talk to each other from big distances, and it does with like, well, I'm not gonna tell, that's a spoiler. It deals with a lot of weird things, very, very kind of sci-fi heavy. I don't even know if this is sci-fi or fantasy. It's a weird blend of genres, but it's just so well written and so interesting, and there's gonna be a sequel coming, which I don't know if we need one, but still, Middle Game was so good that I'm gonna read it. And I definitely want to read it at some point as well, because it's just so intricate when you find out. It's so good. If you like, you know, books in Lala, this is like one of her favorite books, I think. So if you like the book kind of books she likes, I think you're gonna really like this, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And the last 10th book, the best book I read this year, is Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So Poppy War is actually first book in a trilogy, and the last book came out this year, so I'm a bit late to the train. But the reason is that I want to buy the paperback, and the second book paperback just came out recently, and the third book paperback, it's not coming for like a year, so I'm pacing myself. But anyway, the Poppy War, it's based around Asian mythology, or like culture really, and we follow Rin, who I think it's her adopted family, and they're very mean to her, and basically she knows that her two options in life are either get married to some old man she doesn't want to get married to, or go to the best academy for like the army, basically. And her parents say, okay, well, her adopted parents say, okay, if you get into the school you can go, but the test is like incredibly difficult. It's about her trying to pass the test and go to the academy, and then beyond the academy there is this big war happening. It's a very graphic book. It's an adult. It retells the rape of Nanking, I believe. It was a very big event in the Chinese history, where a lot of people were murdered in very, very graphic ways. So this doesn't shy away from the brutality and ugliness of war, especially be careful of sexual assault and rape, because it was graphic. But if you can handle that kind of themes, I would like so recommend it. I think it's a brilliant book talking about war but not glorifying it. I think a lot of times in fantasy there must be a final war, but it's so glorified. It's just this big battle and everyone's like fighting, and it's just so epic. This was epic, I guess, but in different ways. And it also, well, what do I want to tell you? There's gods, there's drugs, there's a lot of things happening, but the writing was brilliant, the story was brilliant, the characters were brilliant. I just cannot wait for the sequel. I think it's gonna be so good. It's hard to say the best book I read it this year, but it was up there. I absolutely love it. I chose it as the best book I read this year, and I cannot wait for the other books. Honestly, I'm kind of mad everyone read it and I didn't, but you know what, just follow your heart. You don't gotta follow the trends. All right, I feel like that's it. I'm sorry, I kind of feel like I've sped through all of these, and the reason is, if it's my favorite book, I've talked about it before. They probably have dedicated videos to them. I will try to link everything I can down in the description, but if you want like one of the books you were really interested in my deeper thoughts, I definitely have videos for all of these. This is just a list and kind of a quick rundown, because also if you follow my channel, you know probably that I love all of these and why I love all of these. But all of these were wonderful. There were so many other books I read this year. It was so hard to narrow it down. I read 117 books and all of them were so good, and it was really hard to narrow it down to the best of the best. Let me know what's the favorite book you read this year, and if you disagree or agree with my picks. I hope you agree, but if not, that's fine. Otherwise, if you made it so far into this video, thank you. But also, could you put maybe the trophy emoji in the comments? You don't have to comment anything else, just the trophy will do as well. Like, don't feel pressured to comment. I just like knowing that you guys like listen to me this long. Oh, also, if you want, I have a whole playlist going on with the yearly reviews. I've done disappointing, surprising, best, and I'm gonna do worst really soon. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you could like, subscribe, and comment, it would really help me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!